We have a guest in the studio. We want to talk about university and college education in the country. We've had this conversation a number of times in the last couple of weeks. There's the issue of universities, the universities fund and how much universities are getting to run their affairs. There's the issue of the number of students that are getting admission into universities, and there's the Higher Education Loans Board. And whether the Higher Education Loans Board is able then to actually meet the needs of everybody who is applying for a loan to get access to education in university or in polytechnics. The Higher Education Loans Board has even talked about, and it was a story that we covered last week, of the number of defaulters rising during COVID-19. Many people who were regular payers of the HELB loan lost their jobs, and so they got into default. We're joined by Njeru. He's an advocate who was recently in school. Allow us to say that, because he's here to talk about that, because you know very many people who have gone through who are going through the ordeal. Njeru, welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
It's good to have you. Welcome to that hot seat. But make yourself comfortable. Let's have a conversation as best as we understand it. So, you're an advocate.
Yes.
Tell us about your practice.
Like you said, my name is Njeru, an advocate of the High Court. Recently admitted to the bar. I was admitted in 2020, July, during the COVID crisis. I started a practice together with my former classmate, who's Mokua Manyara. We were classmates both at undergraduate and postgraduate. And we have a firm in Westlands called MNW and Advocates LLP.
Good stuff. Soon after being admitted to the bar, you decided, you know what, let's start our own. And in fact, for those who are not watching us, Njeru is actually clad like he's going from here, you're going straight to court. The only thing that's missing is, what do you call that thing on the head?
The Correct.
The wig.
A collar. The wig you wear on your head is not necessary in court.
Okay, not anymore. But this one, you must have the collar.
Yes.
To be in court.
Yes.
What does it signify?
This shirt is an advocate's shirt. It's usually worn with a collar because you cannot as well put a tie on. According to the advocate's dress code rules, you have to be well clad in a full suit, which means a suit and a tie. So when you have an advocate's shirt, it goes without saying that you wear it with a collar.
Okay. Tell us your own experience before we even actually broaden this conversation about others and the ability to pay. Your own experience through university and your experience with the Higher Education Loans Board.
My experience is somewhat convoluted in the sense that I wasn't a HELB loanee myself. And but I schooled with a lot of HELB loanees, and I saw what HELB did to these people in that it helped a lot of them access education. And I think what got me into all of this HELB business was an advocate by the name Monica Ngere. She's deceased, unfortunately. She succumbed to cancer a few years ago. And we were talking, it was actually on her Facebook page, and she was talking about why can't anyone pursue HELB with regard to loanees who have been charged against the induplam rule. What that means for the person who does not understand that, it's a Latin maxim, which just means in double. So a lot of people don't know this, but for a person who accesses a loan, you're not supposed to repay back double that principal that you borrowed when the loan becomes non-performing. So I'm using a lot of terms which need explaining. So number one, a loan. A loan is simply a facility that you're given by a financier, a bank, a credit facilities, the KCBs, the TALAs, the water views. Now, a loanee is a person who accesses these loans. A loan becomes non-performing when it starts accruing interest to the extent that it cannot be repaid back. So you find that I have taken 1 million shillings as a loan, and as securitized my title, which is valued at around, say, 1.5 million. So I am unable to pay this loan to the extent that they sent a statutory notice that they are going to recapture my title, and the interest that I'm supposed to pay would make no sense because I'm supposed to pay 2 million. So I'm thinking at this point, what you're just telling me is that you will just take my title, and even if I were to pay you back, it wouldn't make any sense because I'd be down 500. Is that clear enough? Yeah. So when a loan becomes non-performing, it becomes capped at the principal rate. So if I took 100, I shouldn't pay back 200 or more. It doesn't make any sense. So the rule was mainly to cushion loanees because of the disparity in power. Because a bank and a lender have such a difference in power that you have to protect a lender.
Yep.
Same way the law protects a tenant vis-a-vis a landlord and what have you.
So clearly there's issue here, Ben.
Yeah.
There's an issue here with HELB. There's an issue with the loanees.
Yeah.
There's an issue with repayment.
Yes.
Let's maybe take a few steps back.
Okay.
HELB originally instituted. What was it instituted to do? Is HELB there to loan and then make a little bit of money in terms of the interest for itself to then be a self-sustaining entity? Or is it there to protect those who take money in terms of loans?
That's a brilliant question, and I like that we start from there, because number one, HELB as enacted under the HELB Act in 1995 was envisioned as a social protection fund. It wasn't a bank. It isn't regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya. It is a statutory body which is tasked with social protection. So the moment they advance you a loan, it is for your benefit. And the reason they charge you either charges, penalties, interest, is because they don't have enough really to sustain every person in the country who wants tertiary education. So the goal of HELB is not really to make profit to grow as an institution. It is to enable that cycle to continue in that you pay your loan. I can access HELB loans through your payment, and HELB can give another person who will come after me.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you borrow the money, you have to pay it back.
For sure.
And the assumption is that when you finish school, that you are getting some kind of employment which will pay you to enable you to do this.
Yes.
So where does the sticky situation come in here?
The sticky situation, as you rightly put it, is in the great assumption that especially in Kenya, once you finish your education, once you're done, you graduate, you get the job and you start paying HELB.
Right.
For most people, it doesn't work that way. For most people, the education itself is a struggle. So the moment they're done with education and the way the job market is set up, you find that the average person, I think the unemployment rate for the youth is near half, the percentum. So you find that it is not practicable to expect this person to get the loan and then immediately start repaying it. So when you start charging the interest and the charges and the penalties, when this person secures a job and needs a HELB clearance certificate to get a job,
Right.
they're
not going to clear you.
They can't make it work.
And is there no time period, is there no grace period that is then applied to individual after you finish school? Or is there something like that? Is there nothing that kind of falls into place? Of course, with the understanding of the market, it would seem as though it would make sense for them to say, okay, so we're going to give you a couple of years after graduation, and then we expect you to start paying back. Anything like that?
I think mgala muwe na haki umpe. HELB gives some waivers on penalties sometimes. For instance, just last week, they gave a waiver on all penalties for the next month. That waiver is good, but it is objective. It is not subjective. It doesn't target the person who cannot be able to be advantaged by that loan. For instance, there's a person, one of our petitioners in our petition, who got a loan in 2004, a loan of 82,000 shillings. This is a person living with disabilities. This is a person with no employment. as at 2018, this person's loan was 540,000.
And this is what's the accrual here?
That's more than
It's the penalties.
500%. Those are penalties and charges.
How much had he been loaned?
It's a
84,000.
she, 82,480.
82.
1,000.
And how long has she been in default?
4 years.
Since 2004.
Oh,
It's
up to-
a lot of years.
Between 2004 and when?
2016,
2016.
Yeah.
Okay.
12 years.
Yes, 12 years.
The reason why I ask this question is, does HELB have a mechanism for resolving such issues so that long before the interest reach this monumental proportion that they have, one is able to find an easy path towards repaying? I'm asking this because I look at banks. Banks restructure.
Yes.
At least they say they do. Okay?
Yes.
Does HELB restructure?
That's another brilliant question, because banks restructure to conform to the induplum rule, to ascertain that it doesn't get to a point where a non-performing loan exceeds the principal amount. HELB doesn't have that. What the HELB Act at Section 21 have is a prerogative of HELB itself to consider cases of difficulties in paying the loans and do the restructure. So you'll find that for HELB to give such a directive under the Act, or for the Act to be enacted in such a way, it is so ambiguous. It is so it does not target the specific person. Who is this that gets the discretionary powers? Who does not get the discretionary
So
favors?
basically, HELB does not have any power in law to do that.
Like I said, it does. Section 21 gives them a discretionary power to look at the cases of difficulties
Okay.
when and if they arise.
Okay.
But the cases that are on the ground signify that HELB, either the discretionary power use is limited or they don't use it at all.
Or information is also limited.
Yeah.
Because, for example, in this particular case, this client of yours,
Yeah.
who we are assuming that they got out of university in 2004.
Later on, you get a HELB loan before you even clear school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did she clear school?
Around 3 years later, after 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say 2007 cleared school,
Yeah.
and the repayments now kick in.
Yeah.
So between 2007 and 2016, she was expected to be repaying.
Yes.
What were the reasons why she was not repaying?
As I said, this person is unemployed
Okay.
ever since. This is a person living with disabilities.
Okay.
So I think those two aspects render her fit for consideration
Okay.
in waiving such
Did
penalties.
she apply?
She reached out to HELB and nothing was forthcoming.
How did she reach out exactly?
Through us.
Let me tell you
When
why.
did she reach out? Like,
Yes.
when did she write to HELB and say, you know what, this is what I'm going through. This is my situation right now. I request a waiver. I request some moratorium. And did she receive any written response?
You see, we didn't just move to court when we got all these petitioners that we have. We actually wrote letters to HELB. We wrote a demand letter, went unanswered. So to that extent, HELB came on later during the court proceedings when we were at the submission stage, saying, well, we can actually consider, but then we'd crossed that bridge, because now what we're looking for is to find those sections of HELB that have people like our clients get there, don't affect other people in future. We don't want to have, let me look at it this way. It's like there's a crack on this wall, and the HELB situation to resolve it, or rather the resolve is to paint on it instead of treating the crack.
Njeru,
Yeah.
when you get a HELB loan, is there an understanding that there's an interest attached to it?
I'd say yes, there's an interest attached to it.
No. Is there an understanding that, do you know that there will be interest?
If you take a
on
bank
this
loan, you know.
You know.
They even tell you, this is the interest you're going to pay, blah, 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 blah,
you're
blah.
aware.
You know.
Yeah.
Now, when you get a HELB loan, do you know?
Yeah.
You're told.
Yeah. No, the forms, they have all this information, and as a matter of law, ignorance wouldn't be a defense anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say the information is out there. But as we said when we were starting, this is a social protection fund. When I'm accessing this loan, I really have no option. My option is to take it or don't get an education. And education being a constitutional right, it is not a fair thing to require of a person.
Where does HELB get their money from?
Number one, the government. Number two, donors. Number three, repayments.
This is why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Social Protection Fund from the government. Does the government charge HELB an interest on the money that they give HELB?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. No.
So the only reason why HELB charges this loan, interest on these loans, is so that it can also earn some money.
No.
Then why do they charge an interest?
According to them, what they get from the government and the donation is not enough. So they also rely on our part as the loanees to be able to pay them back so that they can get more to advance to other people.
You see, it's an interesting quagmire. You loan. Let's look at this utopian situation where the student population who need loans are, say, 100. And they're all given loans of 100 shillings each. And they all pay.
Yeah.
It means that you are the HELB is able to give another 100. But the reality of our university is that the numbers don't stay constant. They increase.
They're increasing.
Yes. So how are they going to meet these needs?
And that's why
And that's where the interest comes in.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you look at the interest, again, I think you've got where I'm going with this. I can see
You
you
go,
shaking
just
your
go.
head.
Inadequate, man.
Keep going.
Yes. Even if you charge this interest, and let us assume that all these 100 students pay, and let's make the interest
time even.
Yes, let's make the interest 50% so that the conversation is nice and interesting. Okay, you loaned 100 shillings, you pay 150. Okay, now how many more people are you going to actually be able to advance this loan?
And now let's just throw in another interesting thing here. The story that we saw last week about those who are going to be chucked off the register in one public institution, right? Of that number, about 40% is because they're not able to pay. About 14,000 students. So now let's say 14,000 students from one public institution are asking for that money.
Why I asked about alternate ways of resolving these matters is because, and why I introduced the concept of restructuring. Okay?
Yeah.
Is it not better to even have someone simply paying you the interest as opposed to paying you the principal? Because then the interest doesn't accrue and you still get some money. But the insistence and the thinking that we seem to have with money in this country, especially where interest is concerned, is that you must pay. Now, the moment you make it a must, then you will have default. Because if someone is not able to pay the principal and the interest, surely, what are they going to do? They're going to default.
Yeah, for sure. And I get what you're saying. And not to be political or anything, but
Why shouldn't you be political?
You don't have to answer that question.
Okay. There was a resolve in the recently dismissed BBI to have a 7-year moratorium or waiver on the loans. But the question again persists. With the situation in the country where there's so much unemployment, so much poverty, what you're doing is just forestalling this problem. So what you're doing is creating more defaulters, creating more loans, creating more burdens. So what we are actually doing, which brings us to the matter that we have in court, what we are actually doing is telling HELB, we'll meet you halfway. Or rather, our petitioners want to meet you halfway. They got this amount, they can pay this amount back. They can pay it with interest to the legally enforced rate under common law, which is a law relied on by Kenya according to the Judicature Act. So we are saying when a person gives you, when you give a person 82,000, let this person at least be able to pay less than 200,000. Charging this person 500,000 is insane.
It's crippling them.
Yeah. The system as is currently constituted, do you think it's setting folks up to fail?
Yeah, for sure. Because the other loans of another petitioner got a loan in 2016. This was just recently, a loan of 135,000. Now that person is supposed to pay 336,000.
How is
That-
this calculated?
What's the interest rate?
So what is this?
Now the problem is this with the interest. HELB usually charges a modest interest rate, say
Okay.
2%.
Yeah.
But then statutorily, they have under Section 15(2), which is one of the sections we pray that the court finds unconstitutional. They charge a mandatory 5,000 every month on an
For-
unpaid loan. So
So they're charging you twice.
yes,
They're charging you the aha.
So
They
there's a
would-
penalty.
there's a penalty.
So 5,000 is a penalty.
It is a penalty.
for an unpaid loan.
Correct.
But then there's the 2% interest.
Yes.
but
Okay, but what's
but it's compounded because if they charge you 5,000, it means, and the loan was 5,000, then it means that the following month you're now paying interest on 10,000. Now, if that thing goes
are
on
we
for-
compounding that? Are we adding compounding that to the principal?
Yeah, it keeps increasing onto the principal, which is what we have been saying.
So
all
it's
along.
it's compounding on the principal.
Yeah.
So if you had borrowed 100,000 and you don't repay, you default this month, the next interest is actually coming at 1,105
Yes, plus the 2%.
plus the 2%.
Yes, when you don't repay, when you default.
If you default.
Yes,
It's crazy.
it's crazy. Yeah.
Okay. We'll open up the phone lines even for others who have a similar, undergoing a similar predicament to let us know. We'll also invite the management of HELB onto the show one of these days because from where I sit, I see both sides.
Yeah.
I can see the side of course, the loanee who is a student who has just cleared school and they're expected to start repaying immediately. And I can see the side of Bonaringera at HELB.
Yeah, you borrow,
Because
pay back. So we
he
can
has
help other
he has people who are applying and they don't
Yeah.
care whether
who has
Eric.
borrowed and didn't pay.
It's 7:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a situation room. We're having a conversation this morning with Njeru. He's an advocate. He's representing several petitioners who've gone to court and they're saying, okay, we are having an issue here with the Higher Education Loans Board. People who have received loans from HELB and they have, for one reason or another, defaulted, and the interest plus penalty plus everything else has basically shot to more than 5 times what they initially borrowed. This is a big one.
Spice.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. Our guest this morning is Njeru. He's an advocate. He's representing several people who are going to court with an application against the Higher Education Loans Board. And this is, so you go to university or to college, polytechnic in the country, you apply for HELB loan, you get a HELB loan. And at what point does the HELB loan start accruing interest? Njeru?
Like I said, I did not get a HELB loan myself. So I would say that after there's a certain period that you're supposed to be given the HELB loan, you clear education, and then you start paying.
Right.
Yes, it is agreed upon before you even
How
take
long
the
is
loan.
that grace period? Is it something that
Is it
everybody
immediately
gets,
upon graduation?
or is it something you negotiate for?
I think it's communicated before you take a loan. You're told when you're supposed to start repaying, and for most people, it's usually immediate because looking at most of our petitioners, it starts counting immediately
As
after.
soon as graduation,
Yeah.
final installment comes in from HELB, then the next thing is now first installment from you.
Yeah, now you're
as
supposed
a
to start
repayment.
paying back. Yeah,
And then there's interest.
There's
the interest is per annum.
yeah, the interest.
So
is
there's
per
a
annum.
per annum interest.
Yeah.
But then there's a monthly penalty
There's a monthly statutory penalty.
of 5,000 shillings.
5,000.
For every month that you do not repay your loan, 5,000 shillings, which is compounding onto the amount of money that you were lent by HELB.
For sure.
So the interest is calculated on the compounded figure.
Yes.
Okay. So very many people then are going through serious problems. Like you've given us an example of a lady who cleared university college around 2006.
Yes, around that time.
Around 2006, total amount borrowed from HELB was 82,000 shillings.
Yeah.
By 2016, the total amount owed to HELB was,
540,000.
oh my goodness. Who else is going through this? Just call us, let's know, and let's hear what your experience is with the Higher Education Loans Board. Like we're saying, we're pledging here that we're going to have Bonaringera from the Higher Education Loans Board join us for this for a conversation, so he can also explain to us their side of the story, because it's important to hear that. 0719-012-600. I've got Lydia on the line. Lydia from Eldoret. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Lydia?
I'm doing good, Lati. So,
Yes.
tuned in and I can follow the conversation.
Yes.
I'm a victim. I took a loan of 45k from HELB, and this was for 4 years. And then so 45k per year, that is around 180.
Right.
After graduation, I stayed home for 2 years without a job, so it's like I defaulted.
If you don't mind my asking, Lydia, which year did you graduate from university?
I graduated in 2015 from Moore University.
2015 with a total borrowed amount of 180,000 shillings.
Yes.
Okay.
By the time I started repaying, it was 270,000.
Which year was this?
2 years. That's 2017.
So in 2017, you got a job
Yeah.
and your employer started deducting you from your salary.
Yeah, and I was paying 4,000 per month.
But the amount that you owed to HELB by that time was how much?
270,000.
How do you break that down from 180,000 to 270,000?
I think we're being manipulated, honestly.
Because this is an extra 90 Gs and 24 months.
Yeah.
You're our calculator, Ndu. You can do 90,000 shillings in 24 months. What is this?
About 4,600 per month.
The default is per month, isn't it?
Per month of default. If you don't pay this month,
And so it's 5,000 every single month.
that you don't
It's
pay.
37.50.
That is 2%.
3,750.
Yeah.
If we just break it down into, okay, 2 years you have not paid, blah, blah, blah. So it has risen by that amount in that time. That is a huge amount of money. This is the issue that we're getting from Lydia. And thank you very much, Lydia, for calling in. We can continue with other callers on the line as well. Zachary in Kakamega, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yes, I'm Zachary in Kakamega, and I also contribute on the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I benefited from HELB,
Yep.
and when I graduated, I think they gave me up to a year to start paying the loan.
Okay.
So the first sums of money I had, I cleared the loan. Yeah, I think the challenge we beneficiaries have with HELB
Yep.
is most of us, by design or otherwise, they just don't want to pay. Yeah, because I think they allow you to make even a thousand repayments each month. So
Give us your experience,
I think
Zachary. How much had you borrowed from HELB?
HELB had awarded me 60,000 for
Okay.
each of the 4 years in campus,
Okay.
plus a bursary of 8,000.
So total 248,000.
240. The
204.
bursary is not repayable.
True. So which year did you graduate?
I graduated in 2013.
Did you get a job immediately?
Yes,
Oh,
I did. I was lucky enough
And you started repaying immediately?
immediately. And
So-
the first bonus I got, I cleared the entire loan.
Okay. So you're saying that you got a moratorium for a time before you started repayment.
Yes.
How long?
If I can recall, it close to a year, something like that.
And was it communicated to you in writing?
No. I didn't see any communication to that effect.
When you were given the loan and you were given a form to sign, was there any indication of a moratorium, a period within which you were allowed to sort of like get yourself organized before you could pay?
I can't recall, but I don't think.
So when you say you were given a moratorium for a year, how was this communicated to you?
What happens when you clear campus, you get concerned, then you ask. Now, when you ask, it's something you are told, not in writing.
Okay.
Who did you ask?
So when I landed my first job, I opted to start paying immediately.
Okay.
But my colleagues, people we graduated with who had not landed jobs, took up to a year before the penalty started being credited to their account.
Okay. So in total, how much did you end up paying? You've said you accelerated your repayment. How much did you end up paying out of the 240 that you had borrowed from HELB?
I'm sorry, I can't get the exact amount because there are some monies which were paid through payroll.
Okay.
And I cleared the balance lump sum. So I can't really get my hand on the exact amount.
How much did you pay lump sum?
It wasn't too much. It was around 265, around that amount.
Okay. Out of 240 loan. Thank you very much, Zachary, for that experience. Thank you for sharing. Mutweri.
Yes.
Hello, good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Morning.
please switch off your radio, Mutweri, and then we
thank
can...
you, guys.
Please switch off your radio. Ednah in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Ednah?
I'm okay, maybe you.
We are very well, thank you. Share with us your experience with the repayment of university loan.
Now, I took for some loan way back in 2008.
Okay.
Then I had 3 challenges. Then I graduated in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I landed a job in 2015. I had borrowed 175,000.
Okay.
But now, when I went to help find out, because I had the willingness to start paying, I was shocked because it had sort of 600.
600?
Yep.
When did you go to HELB to start repaying?
Immediately,
2015.
Second month, that's my second March. I had started paying.
So you graduated in 2013.
Yeah, landed a job in October.
You had borrowed 175,000 shillings.
Yep. Yeah.
You were out of a job for 2 years.
Yeah.
Get a job in 2015, and when you start repaying, you're told that you owe them 600,000.
600,000.
Did you ask for an explanation or a breakdown in penalties and interest, or some kind of rationale as to why this amount had reached what it did 2 years later?
Now, I told you I was in I applied it in 2008, 2009, and 2010. Now, the charges started coming in 2010 while I'm still at college.
Oh, I see.
And this is not supposed to happen until you're done.
It's not supposed to happen.
Because you had dropped out of university for some years.
Exactly.
Did you communicate that?
I've tried to communicate with the guys. What do they do? They've just written the mail on their doors and the contact. You try call them, you try write a mail, no responses.
Okay.
What is, we have young IMPs who have gone through university education. They can't even try to amend the act. The University HELB Loan Act to cut off for such issues. It's quite pathetic.
Thank you, Ednah. Mutweri?
Yes, how are you guys?
We're fine, thanks.
Thank you. I listen to you guys every day. I just want to say a few things. So I haven't had an experience in Kenya, but I've had the same experience in Australia with what they call HEX for undergraduates or HELP for masters. Number one, the first thing is whoever is drafting these policies, they have to be, the policy has to be proportionate to the economy. So you have to really think about affordability, right? And for example, in Australia, I had a HELP loan for my MBA, but then there was a threshold, so there was a trigger point for them to start taking money out of my income. So you don't just start charging someone, to pay back the debt until they can afford it. That's number one. I think number two and I lost my train of thought.
What was this? What was the threshold in your case? So is it a certain
The
amount of
threshold
money? If
was,
you
number
earn
one,
below this, you don't pay?
Yeah. So what they do is first of all, you have to get a job in the same profession. So if I finish as an engineer, if I go and work at a coffee shop, they're not gonna deduct the money.
Okay.
If I get a role in the same profession that I got a loan for, then they'll start deducting.
Okay.
And then they also look at your affordability. So they look at, okay, so after you've paid all your commitments, what's left, and can you afford? So it's because you don't want to pay your loan and then you're homeless. You see?
Can I ask you this question?
Those are the main things, right? So that's what,
You said your reference point is Australia.
Australia.
Now, when you apply for a loan, in your experience, do they give you the amount you ask for, or the amount you need?
The exact money you ask for, which is the exact money for the cost. So you actually have to import the schedule and the fee schedule. Yeah. So if your school fees is $20,000, $30,000 for the full MBA, they'll give you the exact amount.
And what interest do they charge, if any?
There's no interest. What they charge is called CPI, so it's inflation. So they only charge you 2% inflation. So it's not interest. Because the government's job is not to make money off you. It's to support you, right? So what they're saying is you haven't paid. The money we need to get back is our money, but then our money has to correct itself with inflation.
Do you have any knowledge of what they charge you if you default?
2%. It's just inflation.
Just 2%.
It's just inflation.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you can't really default because they take it out of your income without you approving, right? Like you've got a HELB loan, they'll take the money out.
It's deducted at source.
It's deducted. It's deducted.
Thank you, Njeru. Thank you very much for sharing that. Let's hear from Obia in Kisumu. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Obia, do you have experience with the Higher Education Loans Board?
Yes, I did. In fact, I'm very thankful to those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Without them, I wouldn't have done the education I did.
Okay. Which years did you go to school, and how much did they lend you?
They lent me. In fact, I depend on them the whole thing. From I think they were giving me 8,000, and bursaries they were giving me I think the whole school fees.
Okay.
During that time. Yeah, I don't know how much it was exactly, but they paid everything, and in fact, it was even good for my own sustenance in school using the bursary part.
Mm-hmm. Which year did you graduate?
That was 2008.
Yeah. Did you begin repayment immediately?
And now it took some time to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got a job. Then I worked for 2 years. Then I went out of job for some time. Then I came back. The short and the long and short of this thing is when loan is a loan. Yeah, when you take a loan,
yep,
whatever the amount of calculation they do,
yep,
you have to just abreast yourself on the method they're using to calculate it. The terms and conditions of paying a loan. So, and number two, these guys charge the lowest rate in Kenya.
Okay.
They charge you 2% whatever. And number three, they give you a moratorium before you start paying.
How long is this moratorium?
A year.
Is it uniform to everybody?
It is there in the terms and conditions.
Okay.
And then another thing is, when you go and explain yourself, these guys have not gotten a job. They tell you, do whatever you can. Give us 1,000. Once we see payment, we see commitment. You have not fled away. We are not making money. We just want sustenance. There are people who depend on this money.
So that commitment makes you
not charge you,
not get charged, the penalized, the 5,000 shillings.
It's not a machine. It's people you go and talk with. They know you are still in Kenya.
Yeah.
You are not having a job. You are committing to pay when you get a job.
Thank you, Obia.
Another thing is when I had a total accrual around 500,000 when I was out of job. When I went there, I got a rebate. In fact, they took off around 380,000 out of all that. So I paid around 180, and I was done with it. I got a certificate of clearance.
Okay. Thank you, Abia.
Yeah. I think what they do, sorry for the time, but I think what they should talk about, the guy who is there, the lawyer, what they should help us with is that this CRB thing, which is being used to get jobs in Kenya. I think CRB is not a good thing because people have been sure it's not.
That's his bigger concern. In terms of HELB, these are human beings. You talk to them. Now, let's talk about those things that are coming up. One, is there a moratorium? Because you're dealing with HELB in this particular case of yours.
Yeah.
Can you actually confirm that there is a moratorium? Once someone finishes school, are they expected to start repaying immediately, or are they given some time? And is this time automatic, or is it on a need-by-need basis?
I think it's 1 year, as they say. It's 1 year on the terms and condition of the application. You're given 1 year to start remitting payments.
Okay.
And just to clarify on most of the callers, Kenyans should understand and know that education is not a privilege. It's not a luxury. It's a right of every single Kenyan citizen. It is a right. You are entitled to an education. So when you're getting the HELB loan, it is not the same as a bank loan to maybe get a building, get your business going. When you get a HELB loan, it is to enable you access this right that the government should give you. And you find that these HELB loans necessarily are usually given to underprivileged students because there's always options of self-sponsored where you pay. And when, especially public universities, the fee is usually minimal. It's 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 a semester, around that. So when HELB gives you 40K, 60K a year, and someone fails to pay at the end, even after the moratorium, it really means that we should really look at the situation, not from a banking aspect, not from a financial aspect, but from a social protection aspect.
Yeah.
Because I gave you this loan to access an education.
And you've accessed it.
Yeah.
And there's somebody else who is in need.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like that Australian example because it really shows us how well-developed jurisdiction should work. Because they're simply telling you, this money we gave you was not for self-advancement. It was for the realization of a constitutional right. If I give you money for healthcare, do I then get back penalties on it when you went and got treated?
So should we look at HELB then? Because I go back to what then Eric is trying to highlight here.
Yeah.
Is that there are other folks who are in the queue who are also looking for this help, right? National government, the Treasury, only gives HELB a certain amount of money.
Yes.
So they only have a little bit of wiggle room to play.
Yeah.
So the number of people who come to them, they're banking on the little they're going to make extra to be able to make this pool larger. So should we be looking at them directly or saying that, look, if we have a systemic improvement of things, then the likelihood of more money going to help, that more people can then be helped, then is greater. But if we look at it as it is currently constituted, it's going to be very difficult for them not to do this. They don't have an option but to charge this because there are other people on the queue. What do?
What I don't understand is, did the government give HELB a chunk of money and said, okay, now, after this one, sort yourselves out? Or does the government periodically give HELB money?
No, they get money quarterly.
They get money quarterly. Yeah.
They get money quarterly.
Yes.
But the argument is that it's not
It's
enough.
not enough.
And what Andu is saying, as regard the other people who are in the queue, what we are taking to court is not a loan. We are not adverse to people repaying back
Right,
their loans.
right.
In fact, we would encourage it. What we are targeting is the law, is the HELB Act in itself, is the Constitution of Kenya, is for HELB to be in tandem with the law, with the Induplam rule, with...
So interest and penalties should never exceed.
Yeah, what we are saying
Principle.
is that give these people a fair chance to repay their loan. Once a loan becomes non-performing and you keep on escalating this loan, then you're simply It's like quicksand.
You're crippling
So,
their
Mr.
own ability
but
to
Mr.
repay the
Njeru,
loan.
is it the HELB Act, or is it the individuals who work within HELB?
You see, the Act under Section 15 mandates that 5,000 statutory penalty. So it's there in the law. They have to charge it. Those people have no option but to charge it. They can give waivers, but how many people are they going to give waivers out of all the people they give loans? What you're simply saying is remove this punitive section,
Okay.
let people be given a fair chance to repay their loans.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today. Final question, and you can just answer this simply yes or no. In addition to the case that you're taking before court, have you had a conversation with members of parliament, with legislators, and say it's about time that we amended the HELB Act?
I think that's the next step, because it points to a bigger picture of social protection. So that's the next step for us after the judgment, which is due on notice anytime now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ben Njeru is an advocate. He and his partner at the law firm are representing several petitioners. How many?
There are 3.
3 petitioners on the matter of the Higher Education Loans Board, on this particular issue of the law that governs the Higher Education Loans Board, that says every time you do not repay, there's a 5,000 shillings penalty that is due. And you're basically saying this one is going against all other laws that we have, even common law that's applicable in the country. Thank you for joining us, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.